What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we have a reveal for Revenant, the second episode for Destiny 2. And yes, I've referred to it like that too many times, but of course, we've had previews of Revenant content via Bungie's livestream, plenty of changes that we've heard about, sandbox tuning, big adjustments to systems in the game, but today we finally get an actual thematic reveal via the trailer for Revenant, so we finally get a bit of a glimpse of some of the story components, the new or tweaked enemy faction, I suppose, for Revenant, as well as our primary enemy, but that also means we get a better look at a bunch of gameplay, more of the gear and rewards that we'll be unlocking, and a handful of other pretty cool stuff. It's actually a very cool trailer for this upcoming content drop. Of course, we'll see tomorrow just what it's like to actually play the stuff, but for the moment, let's break down the trailer. As always, I hope you enjoy this one, and if you do, get subscribed and drop a rating down below. We'll have plenty of stuff to talk about in the coming days. Otherwise though, let's get into it. And the very first thing we should do, as always, is check out the trailer in full, so here it is.
I bring a gift, reborn through extinction. Risen, I scorn.
A new species of scorn are hunting Elixni across the system.
Once he finds it, it's too late. Fikral must be stopped.
Stand against those who would cast us into ruin. Defend our people. But against the dead, killing is not enough. I name you Slayer Baron. For the living, from the bones of the dead. We are beyond death.
Now though, of course, to do a bit of an analysis of the trailer, Bungie points out in a handful of sections that this isn't actual gameplay. Of course, we're looking at sort of cinematic content and things like that. The style of the trailer, the sort of horror movie trailer-esque component of it, is pretty awesome. I'd say this is one of the better trailers that we've had for a season or an episode. Of course, that doesn't necessarily mean that the content will be at the same level throughout, just before a load of folks correct me in the comment section, but for a trailer, I've enjoyed it quite a bit. And the first thing we see is a pretty creepy-looking Fikral with a few updates right there. Of course, holding the Echo, which is attached to his staff, so Fikral has sort of stolen some of that energy that went out into the system when we defeated the Witness, and is using it to be less than desirable, shall we say. There's a pretty cool shot here where we see Fallen slowly becoming Scorn, and not only the kind of standard Scorn, but the vampire-themed Scorn, which appears to be a slight update on that enemy type for this release. And it's a pretty cool concept, safe to say. And then we start to see some interesting areas that we'll of course be visiting in Revenant. That includes Widow's Court, which will be an updated Onslaught map, but also some brand new or updated zones right here. And it would appear that we will actually encounter these updated Scorn in combat. They're not just part of the sort of cinematics and the theme. Plus the Titan here is wearing some pretty cool armor, which is the Splicer themed set of gear. There are a couple of different armor sets that we'll be able to get, of course ornaments in the season pass and stuff like that, but nice to get a good look at some of that armor finally. And there are loads of the sort of story teasers, bits of cinematic content that we're going to encounter as we play through Revenant. It looks possible that we'll be visiting some of the spaces in the Onslaught maps like Widow's Court as part of the sort of story content as well, which is interesting. Then we spot the Warlock here in the new hub in the last city, so we won't be visiting the Helm perform at the same cadence by the looks of things, and there'll actually be a new zone dedicated for Revenant, which is cool. The Warlock again with the Splicer armor, who's actually drinking a tincture, and these are some of the potions that we'll craft, which actually have, sandbox components to them. Some of them improve rewards, others interact with the artifact to give sort of hour-long bonuses and things like that in game, which is a cool idea, and it's nice that it actually ties into the story component, at least to some extent. And then we spot Mithrax a few times, and I think Mithrax and Ido, as well as even the Spider, as Bungie mentioned, are going to sort of factor into this. So there's a strong Fallen component naturally, as well as the Scorn and the Vampire Scorn. Speaking of Scorn though, we start to spot Guardians with the Scorn armor ornaments right here. So this is one of the 2 sets of legendary gear. You'll spot the occasional exotic armor piece on these as well. And of course some of the legendary weapons that have that same theme applied to them. And in a bunch of the cinematics that we first saw for Revenant, it was apparent that the Reef or the asteroid belt were some areas that would feature in this, at least in a cinematic sense. But we see a section here that's pretty much like the Tangled Shore Dreaming City zone, which of course is in the Reef as well. So perhaps in some mission or activity content through this release, we'll be revisiting some Tangled Shore themed destinations. And then there are a bunch of clips from Onslaught. So again, all the Scorn enemies here. I wouldn't imagine these are going to get a ton of new kind of capabilities or combat updates, but they get that small visual update, which is cool. And we can see the turret that the Guardian is mounting here back from the Combined Arms era in Destiny 1. So cool, we'll be able to use these inside of Onslaught now. And we also spot plenty of stasis here as well. Even the trip mines appear to be stasis empowered. And stasis, as we've seen, both through the updates and the artifact for this episode, is going to feature very heavily also on the weapons. And then some of the gameplay here, once again, you'll spot exotics, updated abilities and things like that. And the new exotic, the grenade launcher here, that will be unlocking via the season pass. So again, I'm actually a pretty big fan of how Bungie have delivered this. We'll see how the season plays out in itself. But first impressions for a theme and how this has all been kind of tied together. As a content bundle, it certainly, I would say, probably has a bit more personality probably than what we saw with Echoes. Cool soundtrack, sort of Doomslayer vibes, and also the Halloween theme and the time of year that this is dropping is also very fitting. And we'll have Festival of the Lost shortly after this goes live as well. So I hope you guys are feeling spooky. For today though, that is a breakdown of what we spot in the trailer. If you saw any other very cool stuff that I haven't mentioned, you should definitely let us know in the comment section. Also give us your thoughts on what you're looking forward to most with this update as well. Again, I'll have plenty of updates throughout the course of the week, so keep it locked and loaded right here. Otherwise though, as always, thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have an awesome day.
It's too late. The crew must be stopped.
Stand against those who would cast us into ruin. Defend our people. But against the dead, killing is not enough. I name you Slayer Baron. Carve a future for the living from the bones of the dead. We are beyond death.